All right, since today we're going to be writing inequalities, we need to review our inequality symbols. So the first symbol I want to review is this one. What is the name of this symbol?
Greater than.
Oh, I hear less than, I hear greater than.
Wait.
It could be either. This one actually can only be one of the two. Now, how many of you, sometimes I have, and I know mine, I always would get it confused. I'm like, I know this is greater than, or it could be less than, but I don't remember which one. So let me show you something that one of my teachers told me a long time ago, and it's helped me remember which one it is. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put dots on all our edges. So we kind of put little dots, make it look cute and fancy. But when I look at my dots, if I'm looking at just this side of my inequality symbol, how many dots do I see here? Just on this side, I see 2. So I have 2 dots on this side. I have 1 dot on this side. 2 is greater than or less than 1? Greater than, it's bigger, so this name is greater than. It was easy to tell the symbol when we had numbers in elementary, but now what if I said X is less than Y? You have to know the name of the symbol to know which way to fix the sign, because I don't know the value of X and I don't know the value of Y. So it's important that you can name the signs. So this little trick is what helped me when I was in school. So I wanted to share that with you guys. But as you know, in a word problem, they're not always super nice. They don't always say greater than. Instead, they try to use describing words. So some of the key words that we like to see most often in word problems, I might see more than, they might also say the word exceeds or above. If I said the word exceeds, the amount of money in my wallet exceeds $2. Does that mean I have more than $2 or less than $2? More, so that would be a greater than. But I sounded really fancy when I said the money exceeds. That's what word problems like to do. They like to get fancy on us. Sometimes they might just say larger than. Those are probably the most common ways that they describe that symbol in a word problem. Now, just like the greater than symbol, I can use this same strategy to name this symbol. I can use my dots. I have 1 dot on this side, 2 dots on this side. 1 is less than 2. So this is called less than. Now some keywords and phrases. They might say lower or below, smaller than, fewer or fewer than. They could say just fewer, or they could say fewer than. And there's other words that we might come across, but those are the most common ones. Now we have this big symbol here. What do you think this one's called? Greater than or equal to. When I look at the symbol, right there, this part, that's my greater than symbol. And then if I move it up, this line right here is just the bottom line of an equal sign. So I have to combine those two to greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. And I think these bottom two, they have the trickiest words and phrases. Here's the first one. This one I think is one of the trickiest. At least. And it's tricky because when your brain sees the word least, your brain thinks less, right? But what if I said you have to be at least this big to ride the ride? I have to be that or taller. So that's why it's a greater than or equal to. But I'm telling you, your brain sees that least and it automatically tries to be less than, but it's not. So these two bottom ones, I like to use the roller coaster analogy to help me process it. Another one, minimum. Again, if I used my hands to help me, I have to be a minimum of this tall to ride the ride. That means I need to be exactly this tall or bigger, right? Exactly or bigger. Greater than or equal to. And the other one, no less than. No less means not less, so it's greater. Or equal to. You can be no less than this tall to ride the ride. Again, I could be exactly this height or bigger. So that roller coaster analogy kind of helps me remember what the symbol is. And when I see these kind of words in a word problem, even I have to stop and kind of think back no less than, and I think about that roller coaster scenario to help me process it. The last one, what is the name of this symbol?
Less than or equal.
Good, less than or equal to. If it was sitting all alone and we didn't already know that the one above it was greater than, I could still use my dots to help me. 1 dot, 2 dots, less than or equal to. At most is a key word. And I still use the roller coaster. What if I said you can be at most this tall to ride the ride? Can I be bigger? No, I have to be smaller. That's like the baby rides at the little fair or the park. That's like when you're riding the ponies, right? You have to be really little to ride the ponies. Otherwise, you're too big. So at most would be less than or equal to. Same thing with maximum. You can be a maximum of this tall to ride the ride. No bigger. That's as big as you can be. Not more than. Oh yeah, because you're tall? Yeah, it does. So these two are the really super tricky ones. I have to pause extra to think about them because your brain tries to process fast by using keywords. But these are kind of like wacky words. At least means greater than or equal to. At most means less than or equal to. They're kind of opposite. So think about that roller coaster when you come across those words. All right, so today we're going to do the same thing we did yesterday. We're going to write the equation from the word problem or the scenario, except instead of having the equal sign in the middle, we're going to have one of these inequality symbols in the middle. But the good news is we already know the process to do this. And the super good news, we only have to write the inequality. I will not ask you to solve the inequality this year. So we're just writing the equation with that inequality sign in the middle. Okay? So let's look at the first question. Susan has a balance of $110 in her school lunch account. She spends $6 per day for lunch. Her sister Evelyn has $83 in her lunch account, and she spends $4 per day for lunch. In how many days will Susan's lunch account balance be less than Evelyn's? So we're going to set it up with labels first. So who are we talking about here? Susan and Evelyn. Now, once we put the labels, I need to go find my inequality words. So I need to figure out what inequality goes here. So I'm going to go directly to the question. Susan has to be less than Evelyn. So whose lunch account needs to be smaller, Susan's or Evelyn's? Susan's. So the inequality symbol that needs to go in there is less than. I need the small side of my inequality pointing over here to Susan. Now, Miss Marling, what about if I wrote them backwards? What if I put Evelyn's name first? That's okay. If you happen to put Evelyn's name first and Susan's after it, it's okay. You just have to make sure that the sign points the smaller side still has to point to Susan. So if you flip-flop the sides, you have to flip-flop your inequality because Susan has to be less than Evelyn. So she has to have the small side of my inequality. Okay? All right, once I have my inequality symbol, I just do like I did yesterday. Let's go back to the problem and find out all of Susan's information. So Susan, maybe I'll do it in circles. Susan, how much money does Susan start with? 110. So I know we're starting with 110. And then she spends $6. So if she's spending money, are we adding money to the account or taking it away?
Taking it away, ma'am.
Taking it away. So if she spends money, she spends, subtracting, $6 per day. How can I show that?
6x.
Minus the 6x. So 110 minus 6x. Let's go find everything about Evelyn. Those of you online at home, can you see my paper? Okay. Maybe refresh your screen and then you can see it. All right, so what do we know about Evelyn? Evelyn has how much money to start with? $83. So she starts with 83. She's spending, so she's subtracting. $4 per day. How can I write that? 4 minus 4x. And remember, our direction said write the inequality. Bam, we're done. We don't have to solve it. Do what? You would solve it just like an equation. You just have to remember your inequality rules. All right. Let's look at number 2 and 3. I'm going to help you set up our labels, but you're still going to be responsible for coming up with the inequality. So let's talk about number 2. It takes Lucy 20 minutes to bike to the pool and 3.5 minutes per lap to swim in the pool. It takes Dan 30 minutes to jog to the pool and 2 3/4 minutes per lap to swim in the pool. How many laps must Lucy swim in order to spend the same number or more exercising than Dan? So who are we talking about? Lucy and Dan. Lucy and Dan. Now let's go find our inequality. We need Lucy to spend the same or more. So what are we going to put in here to show Lucy? Yes. Greater than or equals. Lucy has to be on the bigger side, and I need the equals too. I'm going to leave it to you to finish this out, but let's set up number 3. Let's practice setting that one up. Sometimes that's the hardest part, just setting them up. FitQuest charges a one-time registration fee of $50 plus $5 per fitness class. Fitnasium charges no registration fee, but charges $8 per fitness class. For how many fitness classes does Fitnasium cost less than or the same as FitQuest? I'm going to underline less than or the same. I underline it both because you don't want to forget that part that says or the same. I did that last period, I would have got that question wrong. All right, so who are we talking about in our problem? I'm talking about who? FitQuest and Fitnasium. FitQuest, Fitnasium. And who has to be less? FitQuest or Fitnasium? Fitnasium has to be less. So Fitnasium needs the smaller side or the same. Don't forget the equal sign. Last period, Miss Marling forgot the equal sign. I only did this part right here. Now, if this was a test question and you had A, B, C, D answer choices, do you think one of the answer choices might have been like that where they forgot the equal sign? They probably would have. They would have tried to trick you. I would have got it wrong. I would have failed that part of it. I would have been tricked. Don't be tricked. Less than or the same. I need that or equal to.